Welcome to Business to Technology Radio, conversations at the intersection of people and technology, where we explore creative uses of advances in communications to enhance the productivity, performance, and progress of your organization. Business to Technology Radio is sponsored by AML Communications, combining technology with know-how and service to generate tangible value. And now, here are your hosts, Todd Youngblood and Todd Schnick.
Hello, and welcome back to Business to Technology Radio. I'm your host, Todd Youngblood, and with me in the studio, as always, my partner, pal, and co-host, Todd Schnick. Welcome back, buddy. Good to see you, as always.
Good to see you, Todd. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing great. We've got Mr. Mike Hill with us today, who is a business advisor, turnaround specialist with Mike Hill & Associates, and has a current role, and I will get into how those roles change over time, as the president of Woodstock Gas. So, Mike, welcome. Glad to have you with us today.
Thanks, Todd. Thank you, Dave and Todd, for inviting me along today.
I don't suspect you come out of college and say, I want to be a turnaround specialist. Tell us about the evolution of the career and what led you to have the background, the knowledge, and experience to go in and help organizations turn around. How did that evolve?
Really good question. I remember when I joined Ernst & Young back in the 80s, and you have this role as senior consultant. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know enough to be a senior consultant and go talk to businesses. But you begin to evolve and you learn tricks about harvesting information out of businesses to help them accomplish their goals and objectives. So it began that way. Well, one of the things that you find about business is 80% of business is the same. And it's whether it's a huge corporation, and I'm at Verizon Wireless, or it's a small business, it really is about blocking and tackling. So the interesting thing is that you find out if you apply these fundamentals, whether it's a large business or a small, you can cause those businesses to be successful. Beyond that, it's an investigation process. And you know what? I harvest information from the best resource, and that's the employees. The employees know what's the matter with a business. And so it doesn't take long to harvest information from the employees about what's broken. And then the experience you just have over the years helps you step in and then do the analysis of what's broken and how to fix it.
Just talk about specifically what you did to begin the turnaround.
Well, the fundamental of any business is measurement. You have to have data. And so one of the first places I began is accounting data. And so I brought in a new CPA. They didn't have a CPA. So the first thing I've got to do is be able to harvest information out of the company. So I brought in a CPA that began to accurately measure the performance of the business. And a CEO needs that data to be able to determine what's broken. The next thing I began to do was, and we were talking about technology briefly and the importance of technology in turnarounds, is I began to put in the fundamentals, the framework of systems that would allow me to make changes in the business. AML was one of those companies. We brought in AML to bring in voice-over internet phones so we could now centralize our phone systems and we could move our customer volume around to the different offices and act like one office instead of 5 offices. The other thing is I centralized our data center. And again, brought all of our computers and operations into a single location so that we could operate as one company instead of 5. Those two fundamentals then allowed me to improve processes both in the actual software systems and the staff. So I, this year, was able to, those platforms allowed me to reorganize the staff. So going back to your original question, it began with data and then the infrastructure of systems.
Speak to how the economy has impacted some of the strategic decisions you've had to make. Obviously, that's all well and good on a normal track, but this economy has been anything but normal. How is that impacting some of the strategic decisions you have to make?
We're more vulnerable to the weather than we are the economy. And this past year was the warmest weather in recorded history in this area. And it took our business down about 40% of our gas sales. Fortunately, we have now the technology in place to allow us to do that. So we made changes in staffing and processes and reduced the staffing by 25%. Instead of having staff that were generalists at each office, we created a specialist centralized model that allowed us to do that reduction. We also created some seasonal-only employees.
What happens next year, assuming it gets really, really cold? I mean, does the same set of processes you have in place now work in reverse as well?
You bet. And we're now prepared for any type of warm weather. We'll make a profit next year. So we've managed the business in such a way that we've reorganized, that we've got flexibility to adjust with whatever happens in the business.
Shifting back to your turnaround work, so when you finish your duty with Woodstock Gas and you move on to the next opportunity, what assurances do you have that an organization will continue on the track? I mean, what are some things that you can do to be sure that they're continuing to do the things that you implemented to be sure that they stay on track?
Yeah, very good question. Because remember, we started out having a conversation about measures, that you have to put performance measures into place as a fundamental of the business. And so with the controller and the operations, VP of operations that I brought in, they have now those measures. We've created processes for annual budgets, for performance reviews, and we've put an incentive comp process in place. So we not only have measures, reports, and data to measure the business, we also have accountability from a staff and a performance point of view to hold people accountable. So you put those two things side by side, and you end up with a perpetual process that allows people to succeed on their own. And it's also training. I'm not an egomaniac that I have to have all the knowledge. Everything that I learn in doing the business, I'm going to share with the staff so that they can, in the event I get hit by a bus, take over. With a typical business, it does take about 3 years to get all those pieces and processes in place, finalizing what you guys suggested, which is the accountability so it can perpetuate itself. There's one other thing that I'll mention to you guys that is probably the most proud moment for me at Woodstock Gas history, and this is to me a crowning moment for a CEO, is that last year we did a survey of the employees, and we asked them how it was going, and we did a survey monkey. It was completely confidential and asked them a variety of different questions, but the bottom line is 80% of the employees were either satisfied or very satisfied. And that's a crowning moment. When you can do a turnaround, keep most of the staff in place, elevate their performance, train them, and make them more proud of what they're doing in the business, that's exciting, and make them happy too. So we've created a healthier organization from a sales, marketing point of view, that we know how to sell now, we know how to do customer service, we do scripts, we know how to talk to people. It's a lot different company than it used to be.
Mike, you mentioned some of the communication enhancements that you did with organizations like AML. What other role has technology played in helping turn around the business?
Well, technology is very important to me. It's very dear to my heart. So every aspect of the business, I've implemented technology. For example, we've implemented trucks, computers on all our trucks. When I got there, we were just running all over. When somebody would call and make an order for gas, we deliver it, no matter one end of the county to the other. Now we do routing, and we actually give the truck drivers through the ticketing system on the computers a route that they have to follow to deliver that. It's cut down. We've increased our gallons per delivery and the miles we're driving per delivery. And so we're cutting all our maintenance costs doing that, and we can do more deliveries for customers. So that, again, it was one of the things that allowed us to do a staff reduction and reduce expenses in the business. But, inventory systems we've implemented, accounting systems, budgeting systems. So across the board, we have a new suite of systems in place to help us.
Mike Hill, our guest, thank you again for joining us. And my co-host, Todd Youngblood, I'm Todd Schnick. We'll see you next time on Business to Technology Radio.